Today I'm going to tell you about the most underrated part of the brain that has maybe the most significant implications for understanding anxiety. Its name is called the insula. But what makes this section of neurons so important, particularly when it comes to its role in anxiety? We've heavily studied the amygdala's role in anxiety, and it's old news that the amygdala's activation increases during threatening and highly emotional situations. And it's slightly less old news that the insula also becomes more active during those same kinds of situations. A little more recently, though, we've discovered that the insula and the amygdala actually communicate with each other, and that the connection between the two is actually higher in individuals with untreated generalized anxiety disorder. Furthermore, we found evidence that our perception of control actually mediates the relationship between the amygdala's anxiety response and increased activation of the insula, meaning that during situations where you perceive something as threatening, the amount of activation in your insula is directly related to how much control you think you have. This explains why my husband gets terrified when I jokingly pretend to step off a 1,500-foot cliff, while I calmly laugh it off like a heartless jerk. While he has no sense of control in the situation, somehow I feel completely in control. Conversely, I have learned to associate flying in airplanes as situations where my control is severely limited, while my husband feels otherwise. As a result, he sits calm and collected in his seat while I fight off a panic attack. And I wonder why therapists work so hard to help clients understand and accept what's actually inside and outside of their control. In all seriousness, though, this does have additional possible implications for treatment targets and therapy. But for now, we're not here to talk about that. Instead, let's dig a little deeper into the role of the insula. What does the insula do exactly? Well, studies have shown it to have a few functions, and for the sake of this video, I'm about to grossly oversimplify. So for you neuroscience nerds out there, please forgive me. But if I were to put its main function, in particular the function of the anterior portion of the insula, into one category, I would describe it as a middleman, specifically a middleman between the body and the brain. It takes sensory information from the body and delivers it to the prefrontal cortex for interpretation, specifically the left dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Essentially, it's a sensory hub, and as such, plays a significant role in a term known as interoception, which is basically just a word that describes the body's ability to collect a bunch of sensory information about the body so it can be aware of what's going on inside. Things like dry mouth, racing heart, itching sensations, sense of hunger, sense of calm, and yes, even a sense of anxiety. You can think of the insula as a place that moves all of these physical sensations from unconscious awareness into conscious awareness. And as such, you could say it plays a role in our subjective states of feeling. So, when it comes to anxiety, though the amygdala plays a role in generating a more automatic, impulsive response to threatening situations, the insula takes that same information and provides us with the ability to experience a more subjective, reflective response. While the amygdala is the reaction part of anxiety that we can't control, the insula is the thinking part of anxiety that we may have some control over. In a recent podcast between Andrew Huberman and Jordan Peterson, Huberman described the insula as the part of the brain that gives us the ability to develop rules about life, how to act and react. For example, it says, oh look, you're breathing hard, your heart is racing, and you're sitting down. Probably not a good time to go run a marathon right now then. It's a protection measure to keep you in appropriate situations based on your bodily states and responses. It's what helps interpret whether increased breathing and heart rate is good or bad for the situation. Interestingly, this supports on a neurological level what Simon Sinek has pointed out for several years now, that anxiety and excitement have the exact same sensory response in the body. The sweaty hands, racing heart, dry mouth, increased body temperature, and how we interpret that bodily information determines whether its outcome is perceived as anxiety or excitement. Well, turns out that the insula is that interpretation hub he's been talking about. It's in the insula that we learn excitement from anxiety. It's in the insula that we make rules about situations, about life that influence our behavior. So while the insula still holds many mysteries, One thing's for sure. Unlocking its secrets could revolutionize our approach to psychotherapy and mental health. It's not just a piece of the brain puzzle. It might just be the game changer we've been looking for. That being said, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed.